The only thing worse than dealing with water in your basement is figuring out how to pay for it. And this is going to be a big problem for many homeowners who have been hit hard by heavy rainfall, intense flooding, and backed up sewer and stormwater drainage systems. Even harder hit may be the tenants and renters of these properties, as they may have lost all their possessions, no longer have a place to stay. Their car or truck may be a total loss. Wherever they worked is shut down, temporarily or permanently closed, or if they are still open and operational, they will have decreased business and reduced hours and pay. On top of all that, they still have to pay and make their rent payment on the first of the month or face possible legal consequences from a breach of contract with their landlord. So, the question is, do renters really have to pay rent if they are no longer able to live in the house or apartment that they are renting because of a major flood? Well, in certain states, the answer is yes. Laws are in place in some states that provide protection to landlords. For instance, under Texas law, landlords are required to provide livable housing under the legal doctrine called implied warranty of ability. Implied warranty of ability refers to the safety and health of a tenant while living in a property. But in Texas, under certain circumstances, a renter may contract the repairs and deduct the cost of the repair from rent, commonly known as repair and deduct. In general, it is illegal to withhold rent in Texas. Now, this law may be different depending on which state you live in, but in Texas, that means that even if your property was damaged and is currently uninhabitable, you will need to continue paying rent until your lease is officially terminated. Historic rainfall and flash flooding caused flooded basements, sewer backups, and broken windows across the St. Louis area, eastern Kentucky, and parts of Nevada, including the Las Vegas Strip. Many Americans are now preparing their family for the next flood. Do you have flood insurance? Do you know what flood insurance covers and what it does not cover? While almost all car insurance policies cover flood damage, most basic home policies do not cover floods. This has become a very hard lesson that many Americans will learn soon, while at the same time, the Biden administration proposes drastic flood insurance reform, which would alter how Americans protect homes and businesses against flooding. The Biden administration's proposed major overhaul to the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP, would drastically alter how Americans protect homes and businesses against flooding. The administration recently announced 17 legislative proposals that would represent the biggest reform to the NFIP since the program's inception. One change would be a nationwide disclosure law that would affect prospective homeowners and renters and the property's previous flood history. Another proposal would prevent NFIP from issuing any new insurance policies for commercial buildings, no matter where they're located or when they were built. FEMA says it wants to promote growth in the private flood insurance market, and this is how they intend to do it. Now, Americans hoping to build new beachfront homes and other flood-prone areas would also have to look elsewhere for insurance. Some homeowners in areas of potential flooding are seeing their insurance coverages canceled and terminated with non-renewals as their policies are dropped by the carriers due to too large of a risk for the insurance companies to carry in relation to their assets. Homeowners would have to go to private insurance companies, which typically charge more expensive insurance premiums. People who hold mortgages on properties that flood multiple times could lose access to their government insurance on their properties. These proposals must pass Congress to become law first, but there is support from both sides of the political aisle with a view that the status quo is becoming financially unstable. For a nation facing rising sea levels and more frequent severe storms due to the quote unquote climate crisis, to say our national flood insurance program is seriously inadequate would be an understatement, despite it being the nation's primary mechanism for addressing flood risk. Scientific claims of warming seas and shifting precipitation patterns are being linked to the cause of more severe floods that are happening more frequently. For people who live along coastlines, rivers, or other waterways, this is a very real threat. Storm surges have the power to destroy homes and upend lives. And for people who live in urban areas, even those far away from rivers or oceans, flooding from overburdened storm sewer systems is also disastrous. Soon, the cost of insurance for homeowners will be out of reach for many, and increasing prices means that some of the people who may need flood insurance the most won't be able to afford it. When preparing you, your family, and your home for a flood, here are some helpful tips to consider. Even if you feel you live in a community with a low risk of flooding, remember that anywhere it rains, it can flood. Just because you haven't experienced a flood in the past doesn't mean you won't experience one in the future. Flood risk isn't just based on history, it's also based on a number of factors, including rainfall, topography, flood control measures, river flow, and tidal surge data, and changes due to the new construction and development. To prepare before a flood, building an emergency kit and making a family communications plan is important. Avoid building in a floodplain unless you elevate and reinforce your home. Elevate the furnace, water heater, and electrical panel in your home if you live in an area that has a high flood risk. Consider installing check valves to prevent flood water from backing up into the drains of your home. If feasible, construct barriers to stop flood water from entering the building and seal walls and basements with waterproofing compounds. During a flood and or if a flood is likely in your area, I would consider listening to the radio or television for more information. Be aware that flash flooding can occur. If there's a possibility of a flash flood, move immediately to higher ground and do not wait for instructions to move. Be aware of stream drainage channels, canyons, and other areas known to flood suddenly. Flash floods can occur in these areas with or without typical warnings, such as rain clouds or heavy rain. If you must prepare to evacuate, I would probably do the following. Secure my home before bringing in outdoor furniture and moving essential items to an upper floor or higher ground. Turning off utilities at the main switches or valves if instructed to do so. Disconnecting electrical appliances, and try not to touch electrical equipment if they're wet or in standing water. Now, after a flood, and if my home has been flooded, I would still remain cautious despite floodwaters that may be down in some areas. Many dangers can still exist. Here are some things that I would remember. Avoid moving water. Stay away from damaged areas unless your assistance has been specifically requested by police, fire, or relief organization. Emergency workers will be assisting people in flooded areas, and I know that I can help them by staying off the roads and out of the way. Playing it safe by additional flooding or flash floods, knowing that these can occur, and listening for local warnings and information. If my car stalls in rapidly rising water, I get out immediately and climb to higher ground. And return home only when authorities indicate it is safe. Roads may still be closed because they have been damaged or covered by water, and barricades have been placed for my protection. If I come across a barricade or flooded road, I'm probably going to go the other way. And if I must walk or drive in areas that have been flooded, I'm going to stay on firm ground. Moving water only 6 inches deep can still sweep me off my feet. So standing water may also be an electrical hazard, as it can be charged from underground or from down power lines. Flooding may have caused familiar places to change, and I have to be aware of that. And floodwaters often erode roads and walkways. Flood debris may hide animals and broken bottles, and it's also slippery, so I would try to avoid walking or driving through it at all costs. Being aware of areas where floodwaters have receded and roads may have weakened and could possibly collapse under the weight of a car, I'm going to do my best to stay out of any buildings if it is surrounded by floodwaters as well. I will continue to use extreme caution when entering buildings, and because there may be hidden damage, particularly in the foundations. Staying healthy is my most important agenda, remembering that a flood can cause physical and hazardous and emotional stress too. And at this point, I would be looking after myself and my family as my primary focus and beginning to work on cleanup and repair. Avoiding floodwaters may be as they may be contaminated by oil, gasoline, or raw sewage. Service damaged septic tanks, cesspools, pits, and leaching systems as soon as possible. Damaged sewer systems are serious health hazards, and I will be sure to remember that as I'm listening for news reports to learn whether the community's water supply is safe to drink. I'll be cleaning and disinfecting everything that gets wet. Mud left from floodwaters can contain sewage and chemicals too. I will try to get rest as often as possible and eat well to keep my energy up mentally and physically, and keep a manageable schedule by making a list of jobs to do one at a time. Now, I will discuss my concerns with others and seek help as my neighbors may be in dire need, and we will contact the Red Cross for information on emotional support available in our area if needed. Now, moving on to cleaning up and repairing my home, I would begin by turning off the electricity at the main breaker or fuse box, even if the power is off in the community. That way, I can decide when our home is dry enough to turn it back on. I would get a copy of the book, Repairing Your Flooded Home, which is available free from the American Red Cross or your state or local emergency manager, because it will tell me how to enter my home safely, how to protect my home and buildings from further damage, how to record damage to support insurance claims and request assistance, and how to check for gas or water leaks and how to have service restored. It'll also help me learn how to clean up appliances, furniture, floors, and other belongings, as the Red Cross can provide me with a cleanup kit, mop, broom, bucket, and cleaning supplies if needed. Contacting my insurance agent to discuss claims will be a high priority on my list, and listening to the radio for information on assistance that may be provided by the state or federal government or other organizations. And if I hire a cleanup crew or repair contractors, I'm definitely going to be checking their references to be sure they're qualified to do the job. I have to be wary of people who drive through neighborhoods offering help in cleanup or repairing my home. These are often referred to as storm chasers, but I hope everyone is going to be doing their best to remain safe and prepared with smart, intelligent prep such as this. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys soon.